Switch it up like it's about to go up, break them like internet. Goofies wanna run up, we leave them in a dead.
You say, okay, I have a lot of money, but you have no money unless you take profits.
When the first ever spot ETF was created for gold 10x.
And the only thing I really knew was Bitcoin at the time, so I just invested very heavily into that. Rode it all the way up.
What's up?
My name is Jeff. Even the creators have said it's going to be the predecessor of CBDC.
What that taught me was that I need to be self-sufficient.
A solid DCA investment strategy, and pretend the red sell button doesn't even exist.
We about to go up like.
Hong Kong is the latest country to slide into the crypto-friendly category. Hong Kong rolls out a licensing program facilitating spot crypto trading for retail investors. Hong Kong was once a powerhouse in the investment world, so to speak, but had taken a backseat. They had backslidden during the COVID-19 pandemic due to the strict regulations going on in that region. But is this inroad something that can propel them to their newest, propel them back into the spotlight, propel them back into former glory? What does this also mean for crypto in Asia, in that region? What does it mean for crypto in Europe and in the United States? And what does it mean for crypto globally? So that's going to be our lead story tonight. We're also going to be talking about the Highest to Stakes premiere, Richard Hart Center documentary released nationwide on Friday, August 4th. If you lived in Miami, Chicago, New York, DC, Las Vegas, Atlanta, various markets across the United States, it came to a theater near you. We're going to be talking to the panelists. We're going to get some insight on the movie. And we're also going to be talking about what exactly will the premiere have any sort of price impact on the Richard Hart ecosystems. Ray Dalio is back in the news again. Billionaire founder of Bridgewater Associates says that we are in the middle of the greatest wealth transfer ever in the world. Not only are boomers handing over their money to millennials, whether it be through retirement or whether it be through passing away, some $73 trillion worth of money is being transferred from the boomers over to the millennials. Not only is it that is the largest wealth transfer, but it's also that everyday Americans are getting richer while the United States government is getting poorer. We're going to be talking about that as well. And we're going to be talking about what this transfer of wealth means for specifically crypto, but also other investment vehicles across the investment realm. And then finally, we're going to be closing it out with Coinbase. Coinbase launches their new layer 2 blockchain on the Ethereum network. It's called Base. It's designed to enhance scalability and reduce fees on the Ethereum network. Within days of launch, Base had amassed a total locked value of over $1 million. So we're going to be talking about how important this development is for Ethereum fees, and does it enhance the overall use case for Ethereum moving into this bull cycle and moving into the cycles ahead of time. Thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Make sure you guys like the video. Make sure you guys comment. Make sure you guys subscribe, and make sure you guys hit that notification bell. Go ahead and check out the description. You guys will see our Telegram channel. Make sure you guys join up on that Telegram, and make sure you guys are adding us on all your social medias as well. With that being said, my man Nate, how you doing tonight, buddy? What's going on?
Hey, yeah, things are going good, man. You know, there's a lot of good things happening around in the crypto world today, right? We've got ourselves, like, as you said, Coinbase are coming up with their own thing right now. This is actually going to be quite interesting, considering that, like, Pulse Chain was kind of doing this as well. And this is twice in a row now where we've got some really major, large L1s coming out to help alleviate all the pressure that's on the Ethereum network, right? And so my theory here is that this is going to help Ethereum to actually kind of like be able to lower fees and stuff, whereas you're also able to go on to, say, Base, Pulse Chain and all that, and have even lower fees and be able to do a lot of other things. That alone is going to be really awesome. But Base is doing something where they're allowing, and this actually ties in with Hong Kong as well, but they're allowing the retail space to start really onboarding quickly. So, hey, I'm getting excited over this, man. I'm looking forward to it. In Hong Kong, there's some big stuff happening out there. So, hey, I'll kick it back over to you, Josh.
All right. Hey, Brendan, what are you up to, buddy?
Hey everyone, thanks for checking in. You know, it's interesting. I do live in Miami, and I was able to check out the premiere of The Highest of Stakes last night, 7 p.m. And one of the stars of the movie, Kareem, actually was watching the premiere in Miami as well. So it was really cool to just talk to people within the community, be able to chat with different people that, you know, have been invested in Hex, you know, literally from day one, people that are newer to the community, and really just nice, you know, when you get to these meetups, when you get to network, it's just really good. A lot of smart people in the crypto space, a lot of really nice people, and really hoping, you know, potentially to see if we can get Kareem and a couple of these other influencers onto our stream someday. They seemed very interested. So I was excited about that. And, you know, there's just a lot of continually good news, even though crypto is being suppressed. There's a lot of good news moving forward, and we're still continuing to start seeing the building blocks of what have we been talking about for a couple months now? The crypto perfect storm theory.
Perfect storm theory
is one of those that is going to continue to build on that. So exciting.
Hey, Jay, what you up to, man?
What's up, guys? You know, same shit, different day, man. Working on my business, trying to accumulate as much capital as possible to throw at this market. Watching my charts and just overall excited. Over the past week, I know that the market has been relatively slow, and people are. I don't know exactly what podcast I was watching earlier, or it might have been actually a clip from a news outlet. But they said that the past month within the market has probably been the lowest amount of volatility since like 6 years ago. Like they really had to go back 6 years to find a time in crypto where the volatility was this low. And so people are getting bored. They're looking for something to do. But overall, what's been going on, I noticed that during times like this where the market is relatively calm, people are still working. People are still developing. And I think we're going to discuss quite a bit of the news in terms of what's been going on in the background from a whole bunch of different companies within the cryptocurrency space, what they've been doing, what they've been developing, what's over the horizon. And that's what's getting me amped up, right? Because some of the stuff that I'm hearing about, Nate mentioned it earlier, Coinbase launching Base, which is their layer 2 solution built on for Ethereum, right? That's exciting. We're going to be going over a little bit of the details about that today. So yeah, man, even though it's quiet in terms of the price action, it's exciting in terms of what's being built in the background and where that's going to take us within the next few months here in crypto, especially once Gary's fired.
The man, the myth, Mr. Jeff is back in the building, ladies and gentlemen. Looking good, looking healthy. What you up to, man? What's been going on? Catch us up.
Talk about real life stuff or crypto stuff?
Hey, whatever you want to share, man.
Anything. Went and saw Oppenheimer last night. I like that. Yesterday was the girlfriend's sister's birthday, so I went and hung out with her. Honestly, a lot of the same old normal stuff. Nothing out of the ordinary, buddy.
I got you. Cool deal. How's the crypto stuff been looking? It's been a little while since you've been on stream. How's everything looking in the portfolio and all that?
My personal portfolio?
Yeah.
I've just been doing my same old DCA. When the price dropped a pretty good chunk last week, I upped it a little bit. I probably increased it by like 50%. So for example, say I do $100 a week, I did like 150. That's not what I do. I'm just giving, a reference. Besides that, I kind of was bored, like Jay was kind of just talking about, because not a lot's going on. So I did a couple of DGen plays, like somebody else was saying, threw $50 in a twerk. That was fun, just so I could support Richard, I felt like. But besides that, I DCA'd into Pulse, PulseX, Hex, Fiat, Time, Hedron, Icosa, and I think that's it.
What do you think about Coast? We got Coast coming out, man. Like, I'm personally looking pretty excited on that one. Looking pretty good.
Yeah, they're coming out with a debit card. That's going to be cool. I'm wondering. So for codes, I don't know. I haven't dug too deep into it. I'm going to guess. Let me turn this headset off because I hear myself talking. I'm guessing that in order, so they don't have a token you can invest in. So I'm guessing for them to get liquidity, they're probably just going to offer like a really high yield on their stable coin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
go
they
ahead and
got
assume
their
that,
stable
yeah.
out. That's about it, though.
That's what I figured.
Mhm.
No, the platform is going to be very, very. It's going to be probably the best you have to offer to bring in like real money and like real life use cases. You know what I mean? Like debit cards and stuff. That's pretty legit.
Although I will say, I'm gonna wait and see. Look, I like what the Coast team is doing. I like that they're coming out with a debit card. But if you look at the peg for USDC and DAI, it's let's just say that's not supposed to be happening if you're pegged to fiat.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But kudos to them, right? But I'll let somebody else experiment on that platform first before I invest.
Sure.
There will be plenty. There will be plenty. That's for sure.
You heard about like the Recordian token coming to Pulse Chain?
What's that? Well, tell us about it, man. I don't know about that one.
I briefly watched a video on it by what's his name? Your boy, I think it's Brandon B. He's a Pulse guy, and he was saying Recordian is a type of studio that's going to allow the artists to kind of have their own rights, kind of like what's it called? What was the one on Ethereum? Audius? I think it was Audius or Audius, something like that. It's basically that, but supposedly the people that are doing it are like some like Tupac's old producers, some like people from Def Jam, like some real like legit names, and they're talking about they're going to launch.
Bro.
They want
That would be a good idea, like a Spotify type deal, but I'd be weary of that. I've seen a lot of those come and go, especially on Ethereum, Binance, and all that. I'm going to take Jay's stance and I'm just going to back off of that one there.
Bro, remember there was an advent of SoundCloud rappers? Because that was kind of like the same thought process, right? Look, we don't have to go through a studio or a label to develop our shit. Even like authors, right? Self-published authors. We're just gonna self-publish our shit. So everybody went to SoundCloud. They got SoundCloud rappers. Imagine, bro. Now we get on-chain rappers. That'd be dope.
2 chains on chain.
Hey, 3 chains, bro.
Hey, that's an AI rapper. That's not fair. Get into AI rap. It's coming.
Oh my god, man! Go mess with Chat GPT. Tell it to make a rap. Wow, shoot.
I'm serious. You're gonna start seeing a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And they can create voices. It's better than half the stuff you see real people make.
That is true. All right, guys. Well, so we got a lot of stuff coming here today. But yeah, for sure, stick around. We're going to be getting to that. But the first thing, obviously, that we need to get to it right now is simply, hey, where is the market at right now? All right. So, hey, Jay, if you could go ahead and take us away on the charts and all that, just kind of give us a little bit of an insight of exactly where are we sitting on the markets right now before we actually get into what's going to happen in the future.
Bro, it's going to be my rapper name. Agent J on the TA.
My name's Jeff.
That Jeff, you're going to do my outro, bro. Or
Absolutely.
now you're going to do the intro, bro.
You got it.
Okay, give me 1 second here. Let me pull up my charts. Let me share that screen with you guys. There we go. Okay, let me know if you guys can see that, okay? Gucci?
Got you.
Yes, sir. Good to go.
Awesome. Fantastic. Okay, so we are currently on day 47 of the current cycle. Like we were kind of talking about earlier before the show started, Bitcoin is doing a whole lot of nothing, right? It's been crabbing sideways to downwards over the past like 30 days or so. So not much in terms of excitement going on in the market. It's possible that we have the current low in already, right? On day 47 here, we had a low of 28,574. So certainly possible that the low could be in already. However, I think there's a good possibility that we're probably going to make some new lows. There's a few reasons why I think that. Number one, Bitcoin is having some really significant trouble, even trying to close above this short-term bearish trend line that we have been forming over the past few weeks. If you see here, the only time that we've closed above there is when we made the cycle high here on day 28. And then recently right here, when we actually got that cycle low, right, we closed right above it. But Bitcoin is having a lot of trouble closing above that short-term trend line. Also, if we can turn on the Bollinger Bands here, you notice that Bitcoin is underneath its 20-day moving average. And if you see here, it's getting rejected even by the 10-day moving average. So it's having a difficult time even recovering our most sensitive moving average here, or at least the most sensitive one that I use, which is that 10-day moving average. And plus, we're only, if we take a price tool here from our current low, right? That's 1.5% away from our current low. So if we were to make, if Bitcoin were to head downwards, it certainly doesn't have a lot of room to go. Versus if we were going to try to make a new cycle high, Bitcoin has quite a bit of ground to make. That's almost a 10% gain to try and recover that cycle high. And to be quite honest with you guys, if we started heading upwards to that degree, I would say that we were actually in the new cycle. Then, right? I would clock this day 47 here as our cycle low, and then we were actually in a new cycle if Bitcoin were to make that kind of significant move upwards. So as far as targets, if we were to head lower, here's what I would say. If we were to head lower, I think Bitcoin is going to find support once again. If you notice over the past few weeks, right, during on stream when I've been doing the TA, I have mentioned the area between 28,000 and 28,500 to serve as significant support. What happened when we made that new cycle low? Well, we hit a cycle low of 28,574. Oh, well, if you were paying attention to the TA that we've been doing over the past few weeks, you would have known that. Also, if you turn on the 111-day moving average, we mentioned this before. Bitcoin has a tendency, whenever it's above this 111-day moving average, when it comes down to it, it forms a support. Well, the 111-day MA formed a support around that 28,500 area, bounced off of that, and was bought up pretty quickly. So if you were to try and head down once again, that area of 28,000 to 28,500 will still remain as pretty damn significant support. As far as if we were to go lower, let's go ahead and take a fib retracement here from our swing low to our most recent swing high. I don't think we go any lower than 27,461, which is that 0.618 fib retracement. Is that golden pocket, right? This is the area of extreme value. Personally, I don't think Bitcoin gets this low. I think it interacts with this trend line and bounces right off of that, right? It's like let's say we come down to this 0.5 fib level here around 28,297, 28.3, right? That's going to serve as psychological support, that 50% off, and then it's going to interact with this trend line. Also, talk about volatility, right? Bitcoin is once again, this price moving sideways is coming up against a rock and a hard place, right? If we let's move this retracement here just so you can see it a little bit clearer. Let's turn off some of these indicators just so that it's a bit easier for you guys to see. If you notice, right, if we were to be a bit more generous with this trend line here, right? Bitcoin is moving sideways and it's coming up. It's going to be pinched by that downward sloping trend line and this long-term upward trend line that we've formed since the beginning of the year. So Bitcoin is going to get pinched here, and depending on how the overall market is looking within the next week, we're probably going to experience some kind of significant volatility, right? Also, I don't know, man, maybe it's just pure coincidence, but if we were to interact with this trend line, it's probably going to happen sometime within the next week. And next week is also when Base, which is Coinbase Layer 2, is going to go live. And so I expect that to introduce some kind of volatility to the market for sure. So I don't know, man. It's just like a whole bunch of things kind of lining up into place within the next week that's probably going to introduce some kind of volatility into this market. So, something exciting can go on, at least for the people watching the price. But yeah, in terms of where the price is going to head down, if we look at our weekly chart over here, turn on our Bollinger Bands, you notice that during that drop down, once again, that Bollinger Band around 28,500 served as pretty significant support, and Bitcoin did use that quite well, and the price was bought up immediately. So that 28,500 is serving as support here on the weekly. Let's go out and zoom out once again on the monthly, right? On the monthly, it's even better. Bitcoin is still holding above that 20-month moving average still pretty well, right? It's pretty high above in terms of price, well above that 20-month moving average, which is at 27,600. So overall, even though bears have current control over the market, Bitcoin is in a pretty good spot that even if we did head downwards a little bit more than our current cycle low, that we're gonna find some pretty damn good support around the 28,500 area. And hey, even if we do head down to to the 27,500 area, that just means it's a good opportunity for you to buy. And so for me personally, right, on my DCAs, I am holding some dry powder on the side just in case we do head down lower and we get a little bit more low on the price action here. On the way up, if Bitcoin is going to try and make a move upwards, I would say that the first area that I'm looking for Bitcoin to recover is this 0.382 level here, taken from our swing high to our swing low, around 29,820. And so if Bitcoin was trying to move upwards and try to make a bullish move upwards, the first area of price that I'm going to look for is for it to recover that 29,820, right? And then I would be pretty confident in saying that we were in a new 60-day cycle. But as far as where we're heading up, our price targets have not changed. $36,000 Bitcoin is the area that I'm looking for this year if we get enough bullish momentum. But let's focus on recovering some of these key fib levels first. That 0.382 level being the 28,900 area. Let's focus on that first, and then we can take it from there. That's it. Pretty much I have what I have for us in terms of the charts. So I'll go ahead and throw it over to Josh, see if he has anything to say, or any of you guys, if you have anything to say about the current price action and the things that you've been observing on your individual charts.
It's always interesting when you have like a long-term ascending price action, and then whenever Bitcoin reaches those points where it pinches, it's always interesting to see the volatility that ensues from there. And it's almost like clockwork. Like once your TA skills are to the point where you can spot that sort of stuff, it's almost like looking into a crystal ball and just exactly. And there there's nothing saying that there is definitely going to happen, but traditionally in the past, when you come to a situation like that, definitely see the volatility.
Yeah,
so
being able to recognize patterns. Yeah, for sure. Like remember a few weeks ago we were talking about how the Bollinger Bands, like a ton of our moving averages and the Bollinger Bands were literally sandwiching Bitcoin, right? And what happened what happened a few weeks ago? Well, we got that big dick move price upwards, right, to our new cycle high, which was like 31,600, right? And that happened literally like during the time when Bitcoin was like being sandwiched heavily by the Bollinger Bands and by some of the moving averages. So it's like, is it an indicator that it's always going to happen? No, but again, it's like being able to recognize these patterns over time is what makes TA so like effective, right? Obviously, you don't use that as like your singular metric to determine where price is going, but it's certainly a good tool to have in your toolbox. So yeah, like that's a good observation there, Josh.
Yeah, and I'd also like to say, we had Pulse Chain and Hex, which kind of crashed right after the SEC sued Richard Hart. And what did people do? Some people bought a little bit. Some people waited for it to go down further. And then we started to get a relief, right? We started to get the price jumped up pretty quickly in about a 12 to 24-hour period where it regained 2x from the bottom. And some people were starting to get FOMO and starting to now buy, further up from these points. And I just want to reiterate that a long-term outlook and patience is really important. Don't let the sentiment of the market in that moment get you too high or too low. And this is what being in the crypto game for a long time is going to do for you. It's going to, as I literally almost just break a glass right next to me. It's what the crypto game does to you. When you're a seasoned veteran, you know, your emotion, you don't trade as emotional, and you know, let those highs and lows get you up and down. You can look at it a lot more cleaner and without emotion. So now we're starting to see it go back down. And like you said, Jay, if we're going to continue to see this market move downwards, then we could have some really nice opportunities to get some dry powder into the market over the next week or two, potentially. Not financial advice.
Thanks for reminding me another pattern, right? When that shit hit the fan and everybody's like, what's going to happen? I was like, okay, here's my personal observation from what has happened prior. And I mentioned this, I think, on our emergency stream on Sunday about, you know, when we heard about the news of the SEC suing Richard Hart. I was like, okay, whenever this happens, price drops down significantly, there is going to be an automatic rally up. And once that automatic rally finishes, what's going to happen? Then you're going to have the short-term traders come into the market and sell once that price starts hitting resistance. And it hit resistance precisely at those levels that we spoke about. And then what happens? We got that slow bleed. Even they said it, right? Like, I was really hoping that Jay was wrong about the TA, but unfortunately, like, the pattern repeated itself, right? It's just one of those things that you see over and over and over again. And once again, that's not necessarily means that it's going to happen again once you see it. But, you know, history is a pretty good predictor of what's going to happen in the future, right? The pattern recognition is a pretty good skill to have. But don't use it as your singular metric to make decisions. The point that I'm trying to get across is, yes, use those skills to your advantage, right? Those pattern recognition skills, but always be ready to be able to pivot on a dime, right? Because let's say I was wrong. Let's say price did start running up. I guarantee you, if price started running up to like around 8, if it broke the 8 level, I would have deployed my dry powder. Yes, I would have missed the bottom, but it's like, well, I'm not gonna miss pulse chain at 8, right? Because I bought in heavily at around 10. So I'm not going to miss that price action. That's what I would have done, right? That would have been my, okay, now you have to pivot, Jay, right? Now you can't wait for bottoms because the chart is telling you otherwise. So.
Great TA as always, my dude. For those of you guys that are watching live, and even for those of you that are watching on replay, make sure you go into our videos and check out Jay's DR Insights, where he goes over the price-based tools for technical analysis. Make sure you guys stay on the lookout for his part 2 of that also. But as always, man, great TA, great insight. We appreciate it very much. So yeah, let's hop into the next portion. This is one of the fun things that we like to do here. We had Antoine on a couple weeks ago as our first live sub. It's an opportunity for folks that are in the community that we're building to come on and introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about themselves, tell us about their crypto journey, and just ultimately, introduce themselves to the community that's watching and to, YouTube in general. So with that being said, Nate the Great, we appreciate you coming on, man. If you could come off of mute and just tell us a little bit about your story, of course, how you got to that beautiful landscape that you're behind right now on the beach, what you're doing there, and your crypto journey. Just fill us in on it.
Yeah, so I'm Nate, Nate the other Nate the Great. And I started investigating Bitcoin in 2012, actually. Ironically, I was told about it by a friend, and the first thing that I said was, definitely a scam. Definitely a scam. I'm not going to buy that. But I did eventually buy some, and at the time, I made good returns. I actually started using there was a service back then called Purse, where you could you could spend Bitcoin to buy things on Amazon at a discount. So I bought a brand new iPad Pro, and I thought I did amazing because I 20x'd my investment, which was great. But I've done a lot of things in life, a lot of different businesses. Here I'm living in San Diego now, and I took some time off from crypto. But when I started hearing about Ethereum, I thought, you know what? If other people are building new things on this technology, it's probably here to stay. And so in 2017, I started more seriously getting into crypto, researching it, learning about it, watching videos, reading white papers. But I have definitely found myself falling into the macroeconomic and socioeconomic side of crypto and financial markets as a whole. And I think although a lot of people, there's a lot of reasons why you could hate California besides the beach. It's a great place to learn from a lot of wealthy people, because there's a lot of extremely wealthy people that move here, and there's a lot of business here. And although there's a lot of taxes here, there's a lot of smart people and procedures. And I've enjoyed living here, but to be honest, I've moved more times than I am old, if that tells you anything about my life. I love to travel. I love food. I love spending my money on memories. I don't have a lot of things. I try to keep my life pretty simple, but I do enjoy exotic destinations and those kinds of memories that you can build.
It kind of sounds like the dream, right? Being able to just kind of travel, going around, just experiencing things. You know, that's kind of the dream.
Yeah, definitely. I think it would be a great thing for any of you out there that haven't been outside of your state or outside of your country to definitely do it at least once. It does open your eyes to a lot of things.
Hey Nate, I'll tell you what. At least you spent your gains on an iPad Pro. At least you weren't the guy who was who spent his Bitcoin on the 2 pizzas from Papa John's and completely missed the 1 million X. So
exactly.
Hey, iPad Pro is iPad Pro is better than 2 pizzas, man.
Yeah, I don't regret it. And I try not to be that guy who looks back and counts up what it'd be worth today. But I'm glad that I learned about it at the time I did, and I didn't give up on it. And I think a lot of people have bad experiences, but if you stick with it, it pays off in the end.
Well, we definitely appreciate you hanging out with us, and definitely hang out with us. We know you went and saw Highest of Stakes, and we want to get your insight on that too. So, but definitely, yeah, just hang out with us for a couple minutes. And, yeah, let's go ahead and rock and roll into the first story we're going to cover. Give me one quick second here. All right. So the first thing that we're going to cover, the Highest of Stakes premiered on Friday, August 4th. We have a couple people on the panel, myself included. We went and saw the film. We have various insights that we're going to share. But yeah, Richard Hart's centerpiece. Something that was interesting that I thought, of course, check to see if it's going to continue to stream or if it's going to continue to play in theaters. I'm not sure if it's going to continue to play or not. I think that's going to be out on streaming. So make sure, if you guys are interested in this, in the film at all, the documentary, check out streams, see if you can find it on stream somewhere, or see if it's still playing in select theaters if you're around them. But anyway, very centered film. I went and saw it last night, and I know we had a couple different people that went to see it last night. So before we get into insights, what I wanted to do, Nate, Nate McGidditt, I wanted to bring you in real quick. I have to specify now that we have, yeah, exactly. But I wanted to bring you in. I know that you haven't had the chance to see it yet. I wanted to know, so you haven't seen it. I wanted to know, what have you been hearing? You're in various Telegram groups. I'm sure plenty of different people, plenty of people have gone and seen it and they've talked about it in the groups. Also, what are you seeing on Twitter? Are you seeing anything? What are you hearing about it? And what is the insights you're getting not being able to see it yet because it's not in your area?
Yeah, so the sentiment all around is actually something of almost, I want to say almost relief, but even just a little bit of disappointment. And it's kind of interesting because you're seeing a dichotomy in the Hex community, right? So the Hexicans were on one side thinking that, and this is just with everything that I'm seeing, by the way. This is how I've gathered all this up, with everybody just talking around and what their opinions are and everything, right? So on one side of the Hexicans, you've got the people who are they kind of wanted it to be almost like a propaganda piece, right? Where it's just sunshine and roses, it's the best thing ever, blah, 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 blah. But on the other hand, people were worried that it was going to be that type of deal, and basically it would just shut people off from wanting to get into Hex itself because, oh, this just sounds, like propaganda, stupid, blah, 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 they're shilling, right? but they were happily not disappointed in that, right? Because what ended up happening was that they gave Hex a real fair shake, apparently. Now, disclaimer: I have not seen it yet. Literally, the nearest the nearest theater that had it was Chicago for me. So unfortunately, it was nowhere near where I was at. So I'm gonna have to go find it and stream it. But I'm coming with this. I have not actually seen the movie myself, and I'm just hearing people talking about it, right? So it's a little bit of a different viewpoint. So go ahead and listen up to somebody who hasn't viewed it yet, but yet is hearing things around the water cooler, right? So yeah, apparently, what I've been hearing is that it's really good and balanced. They kind of take both sides, and it's kind of like the volatility and the scariness of crypto versus the euphoria and the happiness of green candles and all that, right? And they kind of they do show, apparently, they make Richard Hart look a bit like he is a bit full of himself, but at the same time he's got this like kind of genius mind type of deal, aka one of those charismatic leaders, right? It's very interesting to be hearing it from a lot of people who, again, like I said, are both kind of like, we're not happy with it because it's not a propaganda piece, but we are very happy with it because they're being fair with it. So I found that a very interesting take. Otherwise, for the most part, it seems to have been accepted pretty decently.
Hey Jay, I want you to hop in here. I know you haven't seen it as well, so I want you to kind of chime in, give what have you heard about it? What is the sentiment that you're seeing? And then I'm going to go to Brendan, and then I'm going to go to Nate the Great, and then I'll give a little feedback on it. And Jeff, just real quick, Jay. Hey, Jeff, have you seen it yet or no?
I have not. I've heard.
Okay.
I've heard news.
Gotcha. Okay, so Jay, I want you to give a quick answer, and then Jeff, and then we'll hop into to give our insights on it. So Jay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the sentiment that I've seen online about the movie is actually quite similar to Nate's, right? From the point of view of the Hexicans, they said that the boring, yes, I guess the better way to put it is I've seen Hexicans say that the trailer was actually the best part of the movie. And so, like I mentioned, the overall sentiment was very similar to what Nate was observing. I think this is actually not too surprising. Number one, because from what Hexicans have seen and expect out of Richard Hart, especially the 2022 Richard Hart, is somebody who's like full of bravado, full of charisma, likes to push buttons and takes advantage of that outrage marketing, right? And so they were expecting, I guess, the film to be like full of that, right? To elevate him even more in that regard. But one of the best observations I actually found on Twitter was there was one Hexican who brought 4 of his close friends who were no coiners, right? So no introduction to Hex, but even more importantly, absolutely zero introduction to the cryptocurrency environment as a whole. And when he asked what their opinion of the film was, all of them actually said that they enjoyed it quite a bit, which tells me that from the standpoint of somebody who has absolutely no idea about cryptocurrency, that film actually did a pretty damn good job of kind of elucidating what the environment is as a whole, right? Probably giving them a good intro into what the market is like, what some of the founders, Richard Hart, in the market are like. And so I think that's probably going to be the same when I finally go see it. It's probably going to be the same reaction that I have. I'm like, I wanted to see the outrageous Richard Hart, but what I got was actually a very sound explanation of what cryptocurrency is from this film. So yeah, that's kind of my take on it as somebody who hasn't seen it yet.
Yeah, Jeff, go ahead and hop in here. What have you been reading in Telegram? What have you been seeing on socials, and what have you just been hearing in general?
I'm gonna assume most people that saw the movie are probably Hexicans, so you're gonna get kind of a biased point of view. But kind of what Jay said, a bunch of people that I have been reading on here and there, random places that aren't really big Hex fans, kind of got drug out by their buddy who was a fan, helped support, blah blah blah. That like basically what Jay said, exactly the same. People who had no idea about crypto thought it was really really interesting, and I could see I haven't seen the movie, but I could see the directors and Richard doing a good job of painting it in like a certain light and giving it a certain allure to make it interesting and draw people in. But I've also heard some Mexicans say, "Oh, it's the greatest documentary I've ever seen," and I mean, that very well could. I have a fascination with just listening to intelligent people talk. So Richard is somebody I consider to be really intelligent. So I could, if it was a 2-hour documentary of him not being Gucci Richard and being Genius Richard, I could watch that no problem. So I'm really excited to see it, and I think it's gonna supposedly. This is me speculating 100%, but there's talks about possibly a sequel, and you could see that, or maybe a series or something, because the whole SEC spin, that's going to be an entirely whole new possible doorway to make it go even more like a mainstream.
Hey, real quick here, Josh, before you throw it on to somebody else, I actually think that's a pretty damn good way if the point of the film was as an intro to people who've never been introduced to crypto. Because if we want people to get exposed to crypto, we probably want them to be exposed to somebody like Richard Hart, right? The people who say is a scammer, but not really a scammer, uses scam tactics, but instead uses it to get people wealthy. I think that's exactly the type of intro you want for people who absolutely have no idea about this environment. Furthermore, if the general audience was entertained by this movie, that's a damn good sign. Why? Imagine if you tried to present a cryptocurrency film to the masses, explaining them what the Bitcoin white paper is. You're gonna put people to sleep. And so why not introduce them to crypto using somebody like Richard Hart? I think that's actually pretty damn genius, to be honest. Like, come on. It's just like marketing 101.
I'm with you on that. Can you imagine somebody like Charles? I like Charles, but can you imagine somebody like Charles Hoskinson doing this? You'd probably want to fall asleep, even though he's very, very smart. It's not my point. You want it to be polarizing and have good information. Richard is the best of both worlds. So, yes, a newbie who's, oh, man, I don't want to watch a movie about crypto that's going to suck. Oh, shit, this dude's funny as fuck and he's smart.
Definitely. So now what I want to do is I want to give the audience an opportunity. We're probably going to hit some spoilers. So if you guys want to take this opportunity now, set a timer for 20 minutes, stop the stream, go get a drink of water, go do something, come back in about 20 minutes if you don't want to be, if you don't want any spoiler alerts or anything like that. If you haven't seen it, you plan on seeing it, anything like that. So go ahead and take this opportunity now to go ahead and do that, because first up, I'm going to bring in Brendan. Brendan had quite the experience last night down in Miami. He was bumping some elbows with some influencers and stuff like that, and I got a chance to talk to him a little bit last night, and he had some pretty good insight on the film. So, Brendan, go ahead, unload, buddy. Tell us about your experience, and let us know what you thought, what your insights are.
Yeah, right off the bat, I'm going to drop a spoiler. Dumbledore dies on page 596. Okay, I just want you guys to know that.
No,
reading the book for you. But yeah, I was able to go to see the movie, the premiere in Miami last night. Miami is a big crypto city, and did release in a lot of cities that are pro crypto. Miami has one of the most Bitcoin ATMs in the country. One of the cities that has the most. Bitcoin conference comes here often. We have our Bitcoin Bull statue. So it is a lot of techies and people that are involved in this space. I was actually surprised to see how many people actually came out. A lot of influencers. In fact, one of the biggest ones was Kareem, who actually starred in the movie, was at the premiere, and I was able to meet him. I was able to talk to him for about 15, 20 minutes after the show. Really just good community. I was just really able to network, and that's what it's about, right? When you go to an event, a crypto event, if you go to a summit, it's really important that you network, that you learn from people in the industry that have been in there longer than you have. And we will always be learning, no matter what you do for work, no matter what you do for school, you're always going to learn if you allow yourself to be put in those positions too. And so I listened to his story, listened to a lot about what he did. Now it was interesting. I also went with Ruff, who's a Twitch streamer. He's known for he's a professional video game streamer of StarCraft 2, but he's also big in the community, in the crypto settings. He's good friends with Charlie and Miguel, CC and DCC. So, he's been around for a while, and he's certainly a bit of a degenerate when it comes to crypto. So he can join us anytime. And the interesting thing, just talking about the movie itself, is that it was more balanced than I anticipated going in. I really didn't want to go to a movie and see them just shilling one side of, hey, Hex is the best coin of all time, and if you're not in, then you're a loser and you're never going to make money. So it wasn't that, which I was really happy to see. Some people said that the trailer had the best parts, but honestly, I thought the whole movie was really interesting and that it really went by quickly. When it ended and they started to come up with some facts on the screen, just about the people that were in the movie and things to that extent, I was like, it's over? It was weird because it wasn't really like an ending. There wasn't really like any closure to the movie. It was just like an open-ended, like a door. It's like, oh, okay, I guess the movie's over because, they covered Hex, they covered the Pulse Chain launch, and they're like, well, this guy's down 50 grand of the 100,000 that he put in. But he threw the rest of his money, the rest of that money that was in Hex into Pulse Chain sacrifice or Pulse X sacrifice. And his wife's like, I don't know what he's doing with our money. I think we're going to lose it all. But, it was really interesting. So it was really to have that sort of both sides of it. One person that really believes in the project, and then the wife that maybe doesn't understand the crypto space. But so there was that, right? That man, woman. But then on the other side, they had two professors at, I think it was DePaul University. One of them was finance, and they had that lady that literally figures out if things are scams or not. It's what she does for a living. And it was interesting to see that the man who's actually very pro crypto, the financial, was like, I don't understand Hex. I really just don't understand it. And then the woman was like, she was very skeptical when they were explaining to her what it is and Richard Hart and the whole ecosystem. And she asked a lot of, poignant questions. And in the end, she kind of became a bit of a believer. So it was interesting that you had two sides of it. You had two people that have really invested in the project, a husband and wife. And then you had two people on the other side that were professors that were researching the project. And one became a skeptic, so to speak, and one became a believer. And so that was really cool. And then you had, some of the OG Hexicans that have been in the projects forever on there as well. Kareem, which was really cool. He's located here in Miami. Hopefully we can get him on stream one day. But yeah, it was balanced. I really enjoyed the movie. Again, it was interesting that it didn't really have an ending, but I guess Pulse Chain just launched and Hex is still moving forward. So there is no ending, right? That's the whole bottom line. Where does this go in the future? It's an open-ended book, and we as the community are literally writing the next chapter. Okay, so we are the people that are either going to do really well potentially, right? The people that have some skin in the game, or maybe the skeptics that are waiting for it to crash. But the pages are being written as we move forward, and those pages are being written by us, the community, and the believers. Believe it or not, that is pretty cool. So that was really exciting. So my girlfriend came to the movie with me. So just from that standpoint, she's never invested in crypto before. I've explained to her very, very in depth about what crypto is from just about every space, from GameFi to DeFi. I've showed her how platforms work. I showed her how blockchains work. And she's like, wow, I've never had anyone explain to me what crypto is, that I actually was able to explain it. And so she was really, I feel like she has a pretty good base knowledge about crypto. But when she watched the movie, she's like, I just don't know about this crypto, this Richard Hart guy. He's definitely ostentatious. And in the movie, Richard explained why he turned to outrageous marketing, which he didn't do previously. And, you can find that for yourself. But she kind of really enjoyed the movie. So even for someone that's not in this space, she enjoyed the time. She thought it was interesting. She liked meeting the people in the community. And while she might not necessarily be a believer in Richard Hart yet, I know that she is interested in potentially investing in crypto in the future. So she sees benefits there. But that's my long-winded answer of the movie.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but Richard Hart released a video over the weekend where he said something about it was something along the lines of like egotistical me is dead. Like now now it's the humble me. Or so I can't remember if that was this weekend. I can't remember where exactly I saw that. All the information that's floating around. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Did anybody see that or hear that?
I mean, first of all, he's being sued by the SEC. He has to be right now, and so we'll see what happens in the future. But I will say, if people that are in these, I know at least in Miami, the highest the stakes is playing one more showing next Saturday. So it was 2 weekends back to back. So I think that's probably the case in all the cities that it was released. So if you're in LA, New York, if you're in Vegas, if you're in Miami, and you haven't seen the movie, if you still want to, there is one more showing that you can get it. So, but not sure exactly, Josh.
Gotcha. Cool deal. All right. Nate Gray, go ahead and come off of mute. We got a little bit of insight there from Brendan. He gave a pretty good overview of the movie. How does your viewpoint differ? How does yours, how is yours similar? How does it differ? What's on your mind? What's your insight? What did you think of the movie?
So let me first state that I watched an interview with I believe it was the director of the movie when he interviewed Richard from last year, and I followed a little bit of the production of the movie. So I think I went into it with the preconceived notion that it wasn't going to be a puff piece. I even knew that there was some tension at some points between the director's approach and Richard. So I knew that I was expecting it to be a documentary. And I personally enjoy a really good documentary. So I think I wasn't looking for a shill piece. I wasn't looking for a puff piece on Richard. If anything, I was expecting the opposite because it's appealing to a community that it already believes that Richard is, the best thing that has ever been born on the earth. Personally, I think Richard's a man, and I like him, but I wouldn't go as to say that, like one of the interviewees in the movie, that he is God. But I think two things stood out for me. One, I have never gone to a movie theater and seen a movie about crypto. I've never gone to a Regal or a Cinepolis or a large mainstream movie and seen a movie about crypto. So just to be able to go to a movie, to buy popcorn, to go sit down and watch a movie about crypto was really cool. And I think that's a big indicator as far as crypto's here to stay, guys. We're making movies about it. And another big point that stood out to me, whether you left the theater interested in Hex or not, crypto was portrayed in a positive light, in a very positive light, actually. At no point in the movie did it talk about crypto as not having realistic use cases, as not being here to stay, as not being a great alternative to other financial systems that we have in place. So those were awesome. Those were amazing. I think those made me leave, regardless of the quality of the documentary or the subject matter, really excited for the future of crypto. The theater that I went to was sold out, full of Hexicans, but there was enough people there that I was able to talk to that were not invested in crypto or didn't have an understanding of the workings of Hex, but appreciated the realistic view of crypto. They appreciated the personality of Richard Hart. They were fascinated by his duality of personality, and they realized that he was a genius, whether his intentions were clear or not. So I think overall, I would say it was a big win. I personally think it was a great documentary. I think it was a great win for crypto. And honestly, anytime you're getting a lot of publicity for something that we know as crypto enthusiasts, a lot of people look down on, I think it's a good thing. And it goes back to the old idiom, you can say that it's super risky and dangerous and you could lose all your money, but as soon as somebody sees people making millions of dollars and changing their life, they're going to be curious and they're going to start looking. And maybe they won't choose Hex. Maybe they won't choose Ethereum. But they may find something that piques their interest and gets them in. And that's that mass adoption that we're looking for. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see in the next 5 years a bunch of crypto documentaries. We're definitely going to see some about the villains and some about the heroes. But I'm excited. It's just another big indicator for me personally that here we go, guys. We're in early, and it's going to be a fun ride.
Yeah, for sure. Jen, I know that we've got a question in the chat. If you could bring it up by Weeb the People real quick. Yeah, so hey, Nate, what is it? What do you think about this? Like, kind of, what's your opinions on that? That question that
So-
Weeb the People got.
So you see the fraud analyst. She's taking a very systematic approach in the movie. She has a system that she uses to evaluate whether things are scams or frauds. But I think the shift in the movie for her was when she met Richard. And there's something to be said about meeting someone face to face. There's a lot lost in translation over the phone. As most of us know, doing Zoom meetings or Teams meetings, virtual conferencing, it's not the same as meeting someone in person. And you can learn a lot from the body language, from the true intent, true care. And I think that when she met Richard, you could see her demeanor change and shift in the movie, where she started to see his legitimate interest in helping other people understand crypto, helping them not make mistakes. And I think that played a lot into her her kind of viewpoint shift. She doesn't outrightly say at any one point in the movie that I don't believe it's a scam anymore, but she definitely didn't settle on he's a fraud or Hex is a scam. She was unclear about exactly how it worked, but I think as far as her evaluation of Richard Hart the person, I would say that she's pro Richard Hart. I think that she believed that he actually wanted to make a difference and wanted to do something great. And I think that if you use some logic and look at his situation, his financial situation, where he's at in his life, a lot of what he says about his intentions makes sense. And personally, I think that he is telling the truth. Not that you can't lose your money in Hex or in crypto, but as far as the man, Richard Hart, he came off as a very genuine person himself.
Yeah, and I think that the interesting part that when her coworker was continuing to just not berate Richard, but continue to ask him questions because he's like, I just don't understand it. I'm trying to understand. And she's like, what don't you understand? She's like, if people make money, then that's a good thing. That's utility. There's a use case, right? And Jay says it all the time. What are we in crypto for? We're in crypto to make money, right? So if you find a project where you can make money, then there's utility there. That was kind of her bottom line. I think
it's also
Go ahead, Josh.
being able to sit across from somebody. I've had a lot of experience having conversations with people one-on-one before, and when you get the chance to sit across from somebody and you can read their body language, you can see their facial reactions, you can see how they're breathing, and you can see their thought process. You can really get a good feel if somebody's being genuine, if they're just trying to bullshit you. I think that face-to-face meeting, I think it had a lot of input. I also think when they brought up the individual from Nomics, and the question was straight up asked, is Hex a scam? Is Richard Hart a fraud or anything like that? The answer was no to both of them. Now, of course, are Hexicans cult followers? Are Hexicans a cult? The person from Nomics answered yes. But for the first two, the person answered no. I think that probably had a little bit to deal with it as well. But ultimately, I agree 100%. When you can sit across the table from somebody and you can read them and you can just see have a heart-to-heart conversation, he gave some really good answers. He gave a couple answers that I'm pretty sure she thought to herself in that moment, I mean, this is just straight up honesty right here. And I'm not going to, give away those spoilers. Watch the movie, stream it, find out, what he says. It might even be in the preview. But anyway, he gave some good answers. But Jay, were you going to hop in here?
Yeah, we mention all the time, and Hexagon mention all the time that Richard is a genius marketer. Right, that's one aspect of his genius, is that he's an extraordinarily great marketer, and I think people fail to realize exactly why that's important when you're arguing against for Richard Hart and the way that he presents himself online, right? I spoke about this last week when we were talking about this suit against him and his products, right, by the SEC, and I brought up the example of one of my clients, who's she's a social media influencer, and she has a significant amount of followers on her socials, right? Primarily Instagram. And then we had this conversation of, okay, is she going to use, are you going to use your sexuality as an advantage to get, throughput through your pages? And she was kind of having, she was having a tough time coming to terms with, do I want to use that as an influencer, or do I just want to put out good products out there? I was like, look, we know there are people out there who are going to use these powers for bad, right? That they're going to use their sexuality to their advantage, and they have absolutely zero value to their audience. You can do the same thing, except what you're going to do is you're going to use that to get them to click on your profile, but then you're going to get them to stay by providing them significant value, right? Your knowledge about fitness, your knowledge about marketing, your knowledge about lifestyle and psychology, etc. That's how you're going to make them stay, but you're going to make them click, right? The clickbait, you're going to make them click by like provocative bikini pictures and shit. To a degree, that's that's what Richard Hart is doing, right? Not in the bikini pictures, but for God's sakes, he mentions it all the time. I market Hex as a scam because people fall for those kind of marketing tactics. But what does he do? He actually doesn't scam them, except what he does is he introduces them to a community, a thriving community that is very open, that's very welcoming, that's very adamant about helping people onboard onto the space. And he actually has a product that's not a scam, right? That helps create financial freedom for yourself, right? One of the use cases for Hex is that it prevents you from wrecking yourself, because if you're staked out X amount of years, you're not going to panic. You're not going to panic and sell or sell too early if she hits the fan, right? And that's the genius behind his marketing. And so, to Nate the Great's point, I think that's a very good point, right? When you speak to somebody in person and you get to observe, like Josh mentioned, their tonality, their body language, right? They can't sit there and look things up on their phone to give you some data, right? Once you get that vibe check from somebody in person, you can tell, especially from somebody like her who probably spent the entirety of her life analyzing people, right? Analyzing these sociopaths that scam other people and feel no type of way about it. She probably got a significant feel for Richard Hart's personality, or just him in general, during that interview. And he probably did a fairly good job of convincing her like that, look, at the very least throughout this conversation, you're probably not a scammer, right? And so that, combined with the fact that he actually provides a good product to people, it's like the marketing tool is just that. It's a marketing tool. He gets people to click, and then he actually doesn't scam them. What he instead provides them is a valuable product. So that's kind of my input on Weeb's question.
I'd like to touch.
Go
I'd
ahead.
like to touch
Go
on
ahead.
one more thing. Aside from crypto, if you like a good documentary, I thought it was really well balanced. It's not a Marvel movie, so it's not all action, but the producers, the director, they did a great job of bouncing back and forth between the different characters and the different progression of the story in the investigation of Hex and of who is Richard Hart. And I think that if you were to ask anybody who's seen it, who's never heard of Richard Hart before, who has no idea what Hex is, I would say that at least 80% of those people are going to say, I like Richard Hart. I want to meet him. He sounds fun. He sounds cool. I want to talk to him. So I think they did a great job. And the people that say that it wasn't a shill piece for Hex, maybe it wasn't. But to me, it felt like you came out of there liking Richard more than you ever did. And I think that's a win.
Quite frankly, I think that's incredibly important what you just mentioned there, Nate. The fact that people are going to be walking out of the movie theater, and this is something I kind of saw as well, based on sentiment, right? Is that people were like, okay, this crypto thing, I actually kind of understand it a little bit better now, and it seems like it might be something pretty cool to get into. Okay, see right there, that's getting those gears turning, right? Like the next steps. Some people are actually going to be getting into it because of that. Now, is it specifically Hex that they're going to get into? Not necessarily, but they're still going to get onboarded into crypto in general. Trickle down economics. They go to Ethereum. They start going on to Hex, right? They're going to start finding Pulse Chain and things like that. That's just how it works. So I think it was, quite frankly, really good that they structured it that way, basically to introduce people and show them something. And I think it's very fascinating that Richard Hart and Hex, even though we are hated so much, we Hexicans are hated so much in crypto, we end up becoming that face, the whole face of like, here's crypto. This is what it's all about. I mean, I'll tell you what, the Hexican community is quite interesting in their ability to just invent things themselves and just make their own ecosystem. They're like their own country, and they become the face of the world just because of it, even though people don't really like us too much. So, all right, right over to you, Josh.
Yeah, this is also I'll just say this and we can close it out. We'll move on to the next topic. This is also really the only time that you're gonna be able to see a long format conversation with the founder of a cryptocurrency. You don't see documentaries out there too much. You don't see Buterin out there speaking too much. You don't see certainly not going to see anything on Satoshi and other founders of coins. Sure, you might read them on Twitter. They might tweet and stuff like that, but they're not really as open as Richard Hart is in this movie and all that stuff. So, when you can really see behind it, it puts a little bit more skin in the game, and it gives individuals a little bit, it gives it more so they can hear his voice, they can understand what his mindset is, they can hear the conversations. So, it does do good for eyeballs, and it is good for bringing attention on your product and stuff like that. But hey, Nate the Great Dude, we appreciate you being on the show. Definitely love the insight. Appreciate it big time. We're excited to have you in the community. Absolutely love the input that you have. Like I said, you can hang out behind the show if you want to, or if you need to hop off, go ahead and do your thing, man. But enjoy your Sunday night. Definitely appreciate your input, and we'll be catching up with you in the group chat for sure.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
All right, man. Have a good one. Thank you. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. Okay, here we go. So Hong Kong. Hong Kong is in the spotlight. Brand new spot trading program rolled out. It has been approved by the Hong Kong SEC. So when you think about the openness that Hong Kong is showing, I'm going to bring up a couple things, and I want to pose a question to the panel. I'm not going to ask anyone specifically. You guys can just fire off. Hopefully we get a conversation going. But when you think about a new program, like a new spot trading program designed for banks to help retail investors with getting into the cryptocurrency side. And when you think about the increase in digital asset operators, we have more and more exchanges, and we have more operators that are opening up in the Hong Kong area or in the Asian area, in general. I think I read something on Vietnam recently here as well. And then you think of somebody like the Coinbase CEO. Coinbase CEO made a statement, something like he's kind of unsure on if he wants to stay in the United States, given the U.S., given the SEC's, regulations and stuff like that, and the turbulence that seems to be around that aspect. So the first question that I want to ask, and I'm going to open it up to the panel, is Hong Kong ahead of the game, or is the United States behind the game? So I want to ask it again to give you guys an opportunity to think about it. Is Hong Kong ahead of where all the other countries are, or is the United States lagging behind where a majority of the countries are? And I'll open it up to you guys.
Both.
Can we go with both? Yeah, you beat
That's
me
what I was
to
gonna
it.
say.
Both.
I mean, for me, it's Hong Kong is ahead, right? They're gonna probably have one of the first real Bitcoin spot ETFs. They're a big player, and United States isn't the furthest behind, right? I feel like Europe's the one really crushing crypto, and probably the ones in the far back of the pack. But the United States have their issues too, right? But I think that what we're starting to see is a little bit of a change and shift in momentum here in the United States. The SEC obviously is trying to sue everybody that they possibly can to try to get some control, but we know that they're overstepping their bounds, and we know that we're starting to see both sides of the aisle, which we talked about weeks ago, wanting to create crypto regulation that's smart and that makes sense for everybody. Binance, Coinbase, they've been asking the SEC for years, what is this? What do we need to do? And the SEC is like, you need to, anything that's a security, you need to file. Okay, what's a security? Oh, well, we can't tell you that. We're only the SEC, right? So, there's been a lot of issues here in the United States, but I think we're starting to see a bit of a change, and that's good. We obviously know that this technology is going to be here. If you want to stay financially in the game long-term as a country, you need to start adopting good measures when it comes to crypto. So Hong Kong, they're going to be one of the leaders, right? And then maybe China hops in after that, which is what we mentioned in the Perfect Storm show. But we're starting to really see everything in crypto ramp up. And look, it's a moving ball, and it's strong, and no one is going to be able to stop it. So governments either need to start regulating it and get on board, or these countries are going to miss out, and they're not going to be as financially free. We'll get into it a little bit later, but we already know that the United States is downgraded from a AAA lender to a AA plus lender. So they're losing clout in the world because of how much debt that they're taking on. And we need crypto, man. It's only picking up steam. And if you don't get on board, you're going to miss the train.
You're going to be poor. And, to kind of add on a little bit there as well, Brendan, they're already in the process of making, a spot Bitcoin ETF, but they're also making an Ethereum spot ETF as well. They've even come up with ideas of combining the two for an ETF. So quite frankly, the way that Hong Kong is shaping up right now is they're the guinea pig of the entire world right now. And I know that China has specifically stated that whatever it is that is going to happen in China when it comes to crypto is going to first be out there at Hong Kong. So it's very obvious, and they're being very transparent that, hey, we're going to let Hong Kong be like that little guinea pig. Whatever happens to it, whatever works, we're going to bring over here to China, and we'll open it up that way. But as far as regulations and all that goes, what was it? Hash key, I believe it was called. They've been doing multiple regulations over multiple different sectors in the traditional space, and they jumped into crypto quite quickly, and they've admitted just how early regulation is in the crypto space. And what they're trying to do is they're working with Hong Kong, trying to create the quite frankly regulations of the world. And so whatever is happening right now in Hong Kong, you need to pay attention, because if it works in Hong Kong, they're going to distribute it to the rest of the world. And unfortunately, the United States of America seems to be, what's the best word for it? Not paying attention. They're trying to do their own thing right now, and they're kind of failing at it. ultimately, I think what the United States of America is going to end up doing is getting behind and then following, which is sad considering just how amazing the United States has always been, frontiering this type of thing. But we're just falling behind. I don't know. Maybe it's Sleepy Joe, but I don't know. What's your opinion there? I know, Jeff, you had something on that.
So this is my thought process, and I could be wrong. Who has the biggest economy on the planet? America. Who has the second biggest one? China. Do you think America is going to sit by and watch China just make all this money and possibly be the first superpower to get in with a new type of technology that could advance them past America? So maybe America is also, like you said, using them as a guinea pig, seeing what happens. And the second they see stuff is kosher and it's working for them, boom, they jump in and just wait for somebody else to take the risk first. But there's a lot of sentiment going around, like you said, about Coinbase and companies, but also people who this is a growing technology, and it's catching on like wildfire. More and more people are going to want to be involved and have the freedom to use it. And I think it's only a time. I'd be very, very, very shocked if America doesn't get on board. Honestly, they almost have to. So the way to continue to be a superpower is to find the new and best next thing and master it and conquer it before somebody else does. Like when biological warfare and stuff like that first started coming to be, like Oppenheimer. What happened? They were racing to see who could make the bomb quicker. So as far as technology goes, you usually want to be pretty quick. So I think that it's going to be regulated. I can't tell you when, but I can't see America letting China beat them to the race. That makes sense.
That's a really damn good point there, Jeff, because my thought process was kind of along the same lines, right? If there was, in this economic race, if there was one thing that China could do to overtake the US as far as the largest economy in the world, it would be if the US dropped the ball on crypto, right? Because they can't square up against us militarily, right? We have the best, most powerful military in the United States, right? That's not going to change anytime soon. But if they were to overtake us on the economic stage, it would probably be in crypto if they dropped the ball, right? And the thing is, I used to think, okay, even if China was ahead of us in terms of cryptocurrency policy, right? Even if they were ahead, the Chinese have a very over history. What do the Chinese do? They copy paste everything, right? They send people here to infiltrate our university. Let me put my little tinfoil hat on, and I'm Chinese, so it's not racist. But they have a habit of copying what everybody else does, right? And so I was like, I'm not really worried about it because they can't fucking innovate. They gotta fucking copy everything. But here's the thing. Because of the lack of regulatory clarity here in the United States, what has the United States done to a lot of these companies that want to innovate? They have pushed them outside of the US into countries like Hong Kong. Josh mentioned it earlier. What did Brian Armstrong state during, I think it was around April? He said that, yes, we are heavily considering moving operations out of the United States and into more crypto-friendly countries. And so what are you doing? The reason why the United States has been able to maintain its place on top of the world stage is because everybody who has any business innovating wants to come here, right? This is the land of opportunity. This is why people risk life and limb crossing the border, right? Coming here by like a little raft, risk getting deported, because this is the land of opportunity. This is where the innovation comes in. The overwhelming majority of innovation comes from here in the United States. And so what's going to happen if you push all of these innovators into different frontiers? You're going to lose your edge. And if the US doesn't, I swear to God, Gary Gensler is a fucking Chinese plant. I swear to God, bro. Gary Gensler is a plant. He works for the CCP. I guarantee you. But if the United States doesn't get their shit together over the next few years, bro, you're going to get left behind, right? This is like losing, this is equivalent to losing the battle with the internet, right? This is equivalent to losing the space race losing the ability to develop the atom bomb, right? This is that kind of thing. That's how big it is, right? If you lose this battle because you can't get your shit together in terms of regulatory clarity, you are going to lose that number one spot. I guarantee you, bro. Guarantee you. So don't drop the ball.
Gary, boo.
Yeah,
one aspect that I look at it, and I'll look at it from this angle, is see, I'm a big history guy. I absolutely love history. Is my best subject in high school. I'll still just nerd out on history documentaries all day now when I have the time. But I think back to America's situation in the world right before World War I and while World War I was going on. Now, remember, it took America 3 years to even enter World War I. So there was 3 years of chaos that was going on over in Europe before America even entered the war. It stayed neutral, but it kept its business open. It was open to business across the world while the war was going on for 3 years. And at that time, it was London that was the New York City of the world. It was London that had the commerce, and it was London that controlled the world's financial sector at that time. And what you saw was America's willingness to stay neutral and just being open to all business from every single country during that period led to such a huge wealth transfer into the United States. And it's funny because we're going to be talking about wealth transfer next. But it led to such a vast amount of enrichment in the United States. And then, of course, we go into the 20s, and then in 29, the stock market crashes and all that stuff, and we get into World War II. But even during World War II and the transition that America made in its factories and all that stuff, and we still had the exports going on at the time because we were open to business. I'm not seeing that same reverend right now when it comes to welcoming the cryptocurrency side into the United States. And I fear what's going to happen is China, through Hong Kong, because what is Hong Kong? It's a surrogate of China, pretty much. I fear that when you look at stuff like that, and today it's Hong Kong, tomorrow it might be Taiwan. It's the region in general that they are opening themselves up to business, and they are opening themselves up to the opportunities that America was doing pre and during World War I, and that's what scares me. Is that wealth transfer that occurred during that period at the beginning of the 20th century happening right now, 23 years into the 21st century, but in another country. So that's the aspect that I'm taking. Does that pique any thoughts, or does anybody have a rabbit hole to go down with that aspect, or do we want to transition to the next topic?
Bro, that is a fantastic analogy. We need to clip that. That was an absolutely fantastic analogy. That's all I had to say, because that comparison between London keeping their America keeping their business side open even during the war, and now Taiwan is the one keeping their business open for crypto during this type of innovation. That was a fantastic comparison, bro. So we definitely need to clip that, because that was amazing.
Cool deal. Well, if that's the case, let's go ahead and move on to the next article. Let me go ahead and get it pulled up here. And I believe, Brendan, this is yours, right? So I'll go ahead and give a couple sentences on it, then I'll turn it over to you. Does that sound good? All right, cool. So, yep, Ray Dalio is back in the news. I absolutely love Ray Dalio. First time I ever got introduced to him was a Tokyo Crypto show. It was MLD and Charlie doing a show where they played Ray Dalio's Changing World Order or something like that. Anyway, absolutely love Ray Dalio. I think he's very smart, and I pay attention to a lot of the content that he says. And what he's saying here, it's not like groundbreaking. You know what I'm saying? When you think about it, you think of the amount of wealth that has been accumulated by the boomer generation just in the real estate world. Now you got to figure, boomers were from 46 to I believe it was 69. I could be wrong. I believe it's in the article. I don't have the article up in front of me, but it was from right after World War II until the 60s. All right. So in the 1980s, when the boomers were in their 20s or 30s, from the 1980s until present, the housing market has exploded 500%. So as the boomers get older, my father was a boomer. My father passed away. So boomers are getting to the point where they're retiring and they're passing away. They're transferring their wealth to millennials. So the amount that's quoted in the article is $73 trillion. That's the largest wealth transfer ever. Second of which being the greatest generation transitioning their wealth. And I believe the total there was $16 trillion. But Brendan, I want to go ahead, go ahead and turn it over to you. What specific insights do you have? And hopefully we can have a pretty good conversation after you're finished talking about it.
Yeah. So this article was really interesting to me. I think that, when you transfer over the next 20 years, $73 trillion from an old generation, that's not going to invest in technologies, not going to invest as much in the stock market, not going to invest as much in riskier assets because they're the later aspect of their lives, either dying or just starting to just move their money, to their children because they don't need it as much anymore now that they're being retired or whatnot. And so, one of the big interesting notes is, okay, what's the investing differences between the older generation and then millennials and Gen Z? In 2022, it was interesting because almost 60% of Gen Z and millennial investors owned either cryptocurrency and or stocks. And believe it or not, and again, I'm throwing in Gen Z here, but again, some of these older generations are going to be sending the money to to Gen Z as well, so they'll be getting some of it. But crypto actually had an edge over stocks. So as this money moves from older hands to younger hands, of course, you expect them to start investing in things that are more cutting edge, more new, and more focused on their generation, which the older generations weren't investing in. So this brings us to the question, right? Okay, where do they put this money? If last year in 2022, 60% were putting money into crypto and to stocks, then we could start seeing a lot of this money starting to go into more risky and more newer style investments. So I think we could see an uptick in money going into the crypto sector over the next 10 to 20 years, not just from the people that are getting in, but just from all of this old money moving into younger hands. So for me, I've been thinking more of, okay, younger people are getting into crypto, but I didn't think of it as this wealth transfer being moved to a younger generation. And that's a really interesting topic to me personally, and one that I think is a really, we keep throwing out the perfect storm theory, which again, there's a lot to that, but this is a longer time, right? We're talking over the next 20 years. So this could allow crypto to continue to grow at a rapid rate. Now, we may obviously only see that growth, the largest point of that growth in one area. Maybe it's the next 5 years. Maybe it's the next 10 years. We don't know for sure. We have our opinions and our ideas. But the other thing in this article is that the government is getting poorer because they're giving more money out. They're printing more money to give to the people, right? Which is causing high inflation. All of the money that they printed for COVID, all the money that they printed for Ukraine. Okay, they're saying they're transitioning the wealth. And this is where I don't fully agree with the article. But they are saying that the wealth is shifting from the government to the people. Well, if the government just prints money and sends money to the people, they're not creating wealth, okay? They're creating inflation. While people may have dollars, it's worth less. And so there's two parts of this article. One I agree with, and one I think that he's missing a little bit of the reality of the situation, which is when we print money, we create inflation. And we're seeing that. We've seen that. And so I don't think that's wealth transfer. But I think the $73 trillion from old hands to younger hands is a really big and interesting, thing happening.
I agree 100% with you. When I was reading the article, And again, to me, it's not really news. It's good to put out, you know what I'm saying? But it's not really something that's like breaking or earth shattering. It makes sense when you think about it, simply because boomers are getting older, boomers are retiring, boomers are passing away. That money gets transferred down. Now, but I agree with you 100% on the second aspect, because the only area that I could really understand a transfer of wealth would be the fact that we would have 0% interest rates since pretty much 2010, 2011. So the ability to borrow money cheap and have access to cheap money has certainly enriched people. However, I don't think that you can just broadly say that the everyday person, you and me, are getting richer while the government is getting poorer. I don't think that there's been enough wealth generated across the board in the millennial generation to be able to say that. Again, certainly different, if you're a real estate investor and you've been a real estate investor for the last 6 or 7 years and you've taken advantage of those 0% interest rates, absolutely 100%. But as far as across the board, that's not something I agree with. Something that you also have to keep in mind also is you have things like, student loan debt, and you have, record low savings accounts in banks right now and stuff like that. So I'm not exactly sure you can say that America's getting rich while the government's getting poor. I think in a situation like that, I think when the house starts to crumble, everything is pretty much coming down. But that's my intake. Panel, open it up. Please give your insight.
Actually, so Weep the People said something very interesting. That Jen, if you could bring up that comment again here. Ultimately, what's going to be happening, and this is actually going to segue into not only the wealth transfer here, but also kind of what Coinbase is doing currently, is that, Weave the People, he says, my generation exists online. They'll be exposed to crypto by their favorite influencers using NFTs and video games. That's 100% true, bro, because ultimately what's going to end up happening is that the newer generations, like millennials, are the old generation at this point, and the newer ones after that are going to be literally online constantly. And so, magical internet money, right? Magical internet money is going to be crypto. And they are going to be bringing in more and more of this generational wealth from the boomers right into online presence, right? So this is one of the reasons and one of the factors why, GameFi is going to be such a big deal this coming cycle and all that. Ultimately, we're just going to get so much retail in come the bull cycle because of this reasoning, So yeah, Jay, I know that you had something to talk about on this.
No, you actually nailed it pretty square in the head there, and Weeb too, because the millennials all exist online, right? And as much as I dislike the fact that most people exist nowadays, and a lot of people have lost the ability to interact socially in person, and as much as I dislike the amount of degeneracy that goes online, you can't deny the fact that future generations of people are going to exist online. And so whether they like it or not, they're going to be exposed to crypto to some degree, right? And to a significant degree as we move further down along into the future, right? We've mentioned it, that NFTs are going to be used in video games. Well, one of my favorite companies, Square Enix, they've already said that they're going to integrate NFTs onto their games, right? Can you imagine the significant fan base that Square Enix has, both in Japan and in the West, right? And their video games, Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest. If you introduce NFTs to that, you think people are not going to go crazy over collecting those like they went crazy collecting Pokemon? Right? It's like it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. You think the streamers streaming Fortnite, streaming Call of Duty, streaming Overwatch, streaming the Harry Potter game, streaming Baldur's Gate, streaming whatever, like insert X game here that integrates NFTs into their games. You think that people aren't going to start exploring other avenues that exist within the same umbrella of the NFT space? Right? You don't think that Twitch streamers are going to start integrating like payments in cryptocurrency once they integrate that function, right? Because here's the thing, right? I guarantee you right now, the technology to use that as a payment system is not that difficult to integrate, and it's not that difficult to create, right? What is difficult is getting that kind of adoption. And so who's going to create that adoption? Well, the people who exist online. And so it's inevitable, to be quite honest with you. It really is. So that's kind of my take on it. That was a pretty damn good question, actually, or actually good comment from Weeb there. But yeah, it's inevitable, guys. Once the big influencers start integrating cryptocurrency and NFTs and all the stuff into their streams, it's like hands off, man. You're gonna get people throwing money at this left and right. We already see how degenerate people are in Japan, right? Throwing their life savings into gacha games. I mean, you know?
Hey, Jeff, you got any input here, bud?
Let's see. So y'all made good points. I'm into real estate and construction. So a lot of back in the day, that's how most people made their money. Not most people, but a lot of people made a lot of money in real estate, right? So when my dad back in the day, let's say 40 years ago, would go buy a house, the cost to income ratio now is about 4 times higher. Wages have underproduced about 4x compared to that. So the housing market is getting harder and harder to get into. One, I think that's deliberate. Well, one, supply and demand. There's more people. So, but two, I think people like BlackRock and JP Morgan, they deliberately don't want these prices. People keep saying, "Oh, just wait, the housing market's going to crash. It's going to crash." I really don't think it is because there's too much of a demand for it. So that's going to make it hard to get in. And you have these big companies that want to own 10 or 30% of single family rentals. They're willing to spend more to acquire them. So if you're willing to spend more, what happens? Supply and demand. The prices are going to drop. So it's going to be really hard to accumulate wealth in real estate. So what do millennials do? Like y'all already pointed out, technology, things like that. So they're going to say, well, what's another avenue for a store of value that also appreciates? So I think more and more people will kind of gravitate. I think crypto is going to be the new investment haven of what real estate was. The way people used to get rich and get generational money back in the day with real estate, I think that's what crypto will basically be now.
That's a shit hot. Yeah, that's your input there was awesome, and it's something that I know in the back of my head, but it didn't come to my mind when I was considering what I wanted to speak on in this. But you're absolutely right. The income to home, the income to home value or the debt to income ratio, or however you want to classify it, what it was in the 70s and 80s is totally flipped at this point. The values of properties have gone up 500% since the 80s, but wages have pretty much been stagnant through the entire period. And you're right. I 100% agree that I don't know if there is going to be a period where we see a drastic drop in home value simply because of the demand that's coming from the the institutional bankers and the institutional money. I don't know if there is enough. I don't know if there will ever come I mean, there might be, if the United States ever truly starts to default, then of course housing prices are going to go down. But any relative soft, recession or anything like that, I think that they're going to meet.
Josh, you're muted, brother.
Hey, Josh, your fast keys again. Your hotkeys, they're going crazy.
My bad. I was just trying to do something else. Anyway, great analogy. Great input there. Absolutely loved it. Does anybody else have anything to add before we hop to the next topic?
Get on the train, baby.
Yeah, just one more thing. I really like when Jeff brought up the topic of real estate, because remember back when we were kind of doing our intros and you asked how we all got into the space, and I spoke about how when I tried to get into the real estate industry, the barrier of entry was so high. Well, Jeff pointed it out there. What happens when you have something like tokenized real estate, right? When instead of buying a whole property, you could buy fractions of it, and you can dip your toes into the industry that way. Not only does that expose people who, like me, were in that position where they wanted to get into that asset class, but the barrier of entry was so high. Well, now I could buy portions of it. And also what that does is it makes that asset, to a degree, it makes it more liquid, right? So it makes it a bit easier to buy and sell, as opposed to buying and selling a house. Try to go through that process and see how long that takes you, right? So that's another kind of positive way that crypto integrates all of these different avenues of finance, right? Of asset classes, right? It makes them more liquid, because when you can tokenize something and you can buy it and sell it on an exchange or a certain marketplace, it makes it a lot easier to move. So I that's what I wanted to say on that, because that was a really good point, Jeff, that you brought up. So thanks for doing that.
No problem, buddy.
All right, let's go ahead and roll into the final news article that we have here. Coinbase. Jay, you brought this article to us. So why don't you talk a little bit about Base, the layer 2 blockchain on Coinbase, and while you're describing it, for those who might not know, if you could just give a little breakdown on the difference between like a layer 1, a layer 2, and stuff like that. I know that we might get some questions like that, but yeah, man, the floor is yours.
Yeah, certainly. So the primary difference between the layer 1 and the layer 2 is that layer 2s build on top of layer 1s, right? Layer 1s provide kind of like the security and the consensus mechanism, right? They're the ones who post all of those transactions onto the ledger, right? Onto the blockchain. But one of the things that layer 1s have issue with is building scalability, right? You could experience this with something like Ethereum, where when there are times of a high volume of transactions going on in the network, that the gas or the cost to make a transaction on Ethereum is significantly high, or the network might get congested, and in some cases it takes quite a significant amount of time for your transactions to go through, right? Imagine Ethereum being this highway, right? And everybody wants to use it, but when you have so many people using it all at once, there are tolls there, right? That exist. You have to pay the toll in order to use it. Well, the price is gonna increase because everybody's using the same bridge, right? And because everybody's using the same bridge, the bridge gets congested. Well, what do layer 2s solve for? Well, the layer 2s build on top of that. Imagine kind of them building a skyway on top of Ethereum, right? On top of this bridge that people can use for faster transactions and less fees, right? And this in general is the goals of most layer 2s. For example, during the Q2 conference call, when Brian Armstrong, it was during the Q2 earnings conference call, Brian Armstrong was, yes, Cassie, we are talking about gas fees, right? This is the fee that you pay to make the transaction on Ethereum, right? He was talking about how the ultimate goal of Base is so that fees are less than 1 cent and they take less than 1 second, right? And so this ultimately is what Base and other layer 2s like it accomplish, right? They're trying to offload that volume, that traffic off of Ethereum, so that the fees and the transaction speeds don't get, 1, too expensive, and 2, slow, right? So that's the general goal of Base. What's cool about this, right? And just in general, what the cool thing that Coinbase, what they've been doing over the past few months, despite the fact that the SEC has been coming down hard on them, on organizations like Coinbase, on Binance, they've still been building, right? They've remained pretty steadfast in their goal to introduce as many people into cryptocurrency as possible, right? And I know that all of us here are not fans of KYC, but we were talking about this earlier before we started the stream, right? That somebody's going to have to make a deal with the devil, right? And this is this is what Coinbase is doing, right? They're the ones who are working closely. They're trying to, at least, to work closely with regulators so that you create some clarity in terms of the framework behind cryptocurrency, right? And so they're the ones making the deal with the devil, and that's not just them, right? Like look at XRP, right? They're fighting the good fight out there, because in order for us to bring the kind of volume that we want into the space, you are going to have to introduce people to centralized exchanges that do KYC, like Coinbase, right? And so one of the cool things, right, despite the fact that the SEC has been coming after them, right, they actually outperformed their projections for Q2, right? $770 million in revenue for Coinbase in Q2. And I think that's probably because of the fact that, you know, places like the UK pushed out companies like Binance, and Coinbase has a significant presence over there. And so they've now accumulated a large portion of the market share, both here in the US and over there in the UK, right, that Binance used to fill. And so they've been doing pretty well. So here's a quote from Brian Armstrong, right? This was during the same Q2 earnings call that I mentioned earlier, right? He said, "Our goal is to become the primary way people handle their financial lives. One of our big goals over the next year is how we're going to be driving utility in crypto outside of trading. My belief is that the development over the next 10 years within crypto will be predominantly about non-trading use cases. And these include the following. Payments is a big thing, right? We were talking about this earlier. Getting the overall retail market, right? Businesses, online marketplaces like Amazon to accept retail, to accept crypto as a form of payment, right? Let's see, what else? Decentralized identity systems, decentralized messaging, and social apps. Like, I guess what I got from his statement, right, is you know how a lot of people don't like the fact that social media websites like Instagram, like Facebook, and in general, when you participate online, that these companies tend to take your information and sell it, right, to make a profit. Well, it seems like from what Brian Armstrong is trying to accomplish, right, not just with Coinbase, but with Base, is to develop these kind of apps, right? These decentralized social media apps that, because you could retain a degree of anonymity, that they're not going to be able to sell your data, right? They're not going to be able to sell your data to companies, right? What else? I guess that's all I had on the call. Yeah, he says that on-chain is the new online. So I'm actually going to share a few things here that really endear Coinbase to me, and I know that might make some people cringe, right? That, wow, you actually like decentralized exchange, but like I said, somebody's going to have to fight this fight, right? And somebody's going to have to make a deal with the devil, and Coinbase is doing it. Right. And one of the things that I'm going to share here with you guys, right? So here's this plan for what they call on-chain summer. Give me a second. So this is one of the things that got me really freaking excited. See this one, not that one, this one. Here we go. Here you go, right? To celebrate the general availability launch of Base on August 9th, next week. So expect some volatility next week, right? We're kicking off on-chain summer, a month-long on-chain festival put on by 50 of the best builders, brands, products, artists, and creators. Every day in August, they'll be bringing you something fun thing to do on-chain, highlighting art, music, gaming, advocacy, and more. So here's the thing, right? If you want to involve people that exist in the bell curve, right? People like us that are on the bleeding edge of this kind of technology, right? There's only a few of us, right? What do you have to do in order to expose more people to this kind of stuff? Well, you create things like this, right? People like festival, people like raves, people like music, and they like art. And so if you're bringing in artists and creators from different industries and exposing them to crypto in this way, well, you're going to be able to get eyes from the people that follow those different influencers, right? Follow different artists, follow different creators, follow different musicians, follow different companies, right? You're going to be able to get that market share of eyes because you're bringing them into something like this, into something like this event, like On-Chain Summer. Like what else are they doing? Let's see here. There was one, I think, yeah, this one right here. This one I really like. So this one actually just highlights some of the things that Coinbase is going to do with the Base protocol, right? Which is their L2. right? Being able to mint quickly, right? From 0 to mint in 60 seconds with the Coinbase wallet. Coinbase, you guys might be familiar with this for those who have used the platform quite significantly, but on their base, their L2, right? There are going to be activities there, right? Little prompts that you could do when you're actually interacting with that application that educate you about the different aspects of not just their company, but DeFi in general, right? And for participating in those kind of activities, you're actually going to be given like incentives. It says here new users can earn up to $50 in crypto getting started, including our new quest to get Ethereum on base. Right, so that's pretty cool. So not only are you educating new users about DeFi, but you're also incentivizing them by giving them free Ethereum, or it might be in the form of another crypto, but Ethereum's one of them. Here's one thing that I really like, right? You guys know, and a few of you here are users of Coinbase One. Any wallet that mints on-chain summer NFT will be eligible to receive 60 days free of Coinbase One. And Coinbase One is a service that allows you to onboard money onto their platform, 0 fees, and to able to self-custody it immediately, which is fantastic because there are very few companies within the cryptocurrency space that have something like this, that have a subscription model like Coinbase One that allow you to onboard money with no fees and also be able to offboard it immediately. I spoke about this in the chat a few days ago. There is nothing that I hate more than onboarding money to an exchange and the exchange saying we have to hold your funds here for a week until we clear it with your bank. And then me as a consumer, as a customer, hoping that FTX doesn't happen or Celsius doesn't happen with my funds stuck on their freaking exchange. And that the asset that I want to buy that doesn't exist on their exchange because it exists on a DeFi protocol, right, doesn't run up on price on me because my money's stuck here on the exchange. So stuff like this, like Coinbase One, that is features like this that Coinbase has. You're gonna get my support, right? Despite the fact that you're KYC and that you're a decentralized exchange, stuff like this that allow users to integrate seamlessly and easily onto cryptocurrency in general, you're going to get my support. Right. And despite the fact that SEC is breathing down their neck, look at this. This is the final thing that I want to share with you guys, right? About how steadfast these guys in their goal to really fight for their users and to fight for us against the SEC, right? This is Coinbase this Twitter feed right here. This is their lawyer on the case, right? Paul Graywall says today Coinbase filed our brief asking the court to dismiss the SEC's case against us. Our core argument is simple. We do not offer investment contracts, as that term has been construed by decades of the Supreme Court and other binding precedent, right? Josh, you can go ahead and stop sharing my screen here and go back to, there we go. So he was on a interview recently, him and Brian Armstrong, right? And Graywall. And here's the statement that I'll leave you guys off with, right? This is Graywall. He says, we think we can win. We expect to win. Our goal with all of our actions is to receive regulatory clarity. We think that's how we all win. We will be moving forward with our brief to ask the Southern District of New York, I think this is going to occur next week, I believe this is next week, to dismiss the case in its entirety, using most likely the Ripple case as precedent. If you guys want to explore it a lot more, the brief, they've actually released the brief and it's public. It will show you there that a lot of the allegations in the Coinbase case is extremely similar to the allegations that Ripple that the SEC levied against Ripple. And so using that as precedent, they're using that to get the case dismissed entirely. Right. And I like the fact that what he said, right? The win for us here is to get regulatory clarity, right? So that we stop pushing away these companies outside of the United States and get them to innovate here, because we would like to stay here in the US, right? And not give our business to China. But if I was in their place and the US was pushing me away, right? I'm going to take my business elsewhere. So I'll leave it at that, and I'll open up to you guys to kind of speak on the things that I spoke about there. Like, how do you feel about Coinbase, what they're doing, about on-chain summer? Give me your thoughts, man, because I'm pretty biased, like in terms of my support for them. So I'd like to get your thoughts on it.
How do you
Well,
follow
actually,
that?
you kind of hit it perfectly there, Jay. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're doing to help, and this is what I'm looking at, right? Because for me personally, like, I don't like centralized exchanges just in general. I'm more of a decentralized type of guy. But when I'm looking at what Coinbase is doing, it's like, hey, I'm getting a bit bullish over here. You know, I can tell that, you know, you got to make your deal with the devil, right? And able to get all that retail in, and able to get all that regular money in, which is multi-billions, if not trillions, in the marketplace and traditional financing, right? And able to get that in, you're going to have to make a deal with the devil. You're going to have to get these large corporations in. You're going to have to get all these regulations in. Coinbase understands this, and they're making it clear that they understand this, and they're really going hard at it. Quite frankly, just being like, okay, you know what? We're going to be that guy. We are going to be that guy, and everyone's going to come through us, basically. Most everyone who's going to get onboarded, like I would say the majority of people who's getting onboarded into crypto is going to be sitting on a centrally exchanged anyways, right? It is what it is. It's still going to be good for crypto though overall. But yeah, so Jen, we had Cassie bring up a good question. I want to bring this one over to you, Jay. What is your thoughts on this here real quick?
If we get something, I'm not exactly sure how, like, you're going to manage a decentralized social media app. I like the idea of them not being able to sell your data, but if you're staying with the spirit of crypto, like the anonymity, it kind of defeats the purpose of social media. But if you were somehow able to integrate the like the not selling your data to companies, that's probably a good thing, right? But I think that's more of that's further down along the line. Let's focus on being able to use crypto as a form of payment to the broader retail market first, right? Let's focus on that, right? Because that's kind of the big ticket item, and then we can move on to the other stuff. But you know, it's a neat idea for sure.
Yeah, actually, it is a really neat idea. One thing that I was looking at is there's a couple of different companies that have like credit cards and stuff, right? I know Coast is making their own right now. I'm really excited to see what they do with that. Crypto.com has a really good card. Basically, like if you put enough money into it, like get their black card and all that, you could basically pay off all your bills with that card with the interest that they give you automatically by holding that money on there by using the card. And the nice thing about these cards as well is that you have the ability to transfer cryptocurrencies, move it into a certain currency to pay with, and then from there you can start swiping the card, right? So that's actually a really interesting idea. You know, hey, I'm in China, I'm using my card. All right, so where you got the yen going? Oh, but I'm gonna be in I think it's rubles or whatever, but I'm going to be in India, right? The next week, I'll just transfer, pay in rubles. Okay, there we go, boom, and then we start going, right? But yeah, so it's very fascinating the way these different companies are going and creating their own cards and stuff. So yeah, does anybody else have anything else on Coinbase's base layer?
There's no way I'm going to try to follow up what Jay said, so I got nothing. I'm going to leave it up to Jeff and Brendan.
Yeah, I'll quickly just say a couple things. You know, one of the biggest barriers to entry in crypto, first, right, obviously, is volatility, which people are afraid of. The next biggest barrier to entry in crypto is a difficulty of people being able to, to the amount of knowledge you need to be able to buy coins, hold coins in your own wallet, make transactions, and not get wrecked. So the easiest way for people to get into crypto is to make it easy for them, right? Unfortunately, that generally means some sort of centralized exchange or centralized company coming in and allowing people to onboard through their platform. There's absolutely no doubt that we recommend holding your coins in your own wallets and having self-custody. But, the vast majority of people, they want things done easily. People don't want to spend a lot of time needing to do things. And that's how it is in today's world, right? We're in the TikTok generation. I just want things to be done quickly and easily. Unfortunately, that's just how it is today. So how do you reduce the barrier of entry from a difficulty standpoint of crypto? Well, it comes from a centralized exchange. I've been using Coinbase One for a while to onboard fiat. I've been using them, Coinbase One, since it was a beta. I got really lucky and got it at a very, very cheap price. But it's excellent. And I do like some of the things that Coinbase is doing. And one of the things that they want to do, their goal is to onboard another billion people into crypto, right? That's one of the things that they're talking about in their release of Base is like, how do we onboard the next billion people into crypto, the next, 100 million people into crypto? And so Coinbase does want to bring people into the space, and they're trying to find ways to make it easier to build in this space, to get influencers into the space, to get musicians into the space, and to get people into the space. And again, yes, you have to get them interested, and yes, you have to make it easier for them. Unfortunately, that's just the case that it is right now. And so I think Coinbase allows for the ability to onboard a lot more people because they're a centralized exchange, because they can make it a little bit easier. And it's our job to, once these people are in the space, to help them learn, how to be self-sufficient, how to keep their coins in their own wallets. But honestly, how else are we going to get more people into the market? Not everyone's going to have the knowledge to self-custody. Just unfortunately, it's just the truth of it.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? Even though me personally, I support Coinbase, you know how I support them? By subscribing to Coinbase One and paying that subscription fee, right? That benefits me greatly. But what I'm going to tell you guys is, despite the fact that I do support what they're doing, the fight that they're fighting against the SEC for the broader cryptocurrency space, I'm still going to tell you, as soon as you get your money on Coinbase, you take it off immediately. You self-custody it immediately. You support them by, like subscribing to Coinbase One, and that service is excellent because it allows you to buy with no fees, offboard instantly with no wait time. That's how you show them support, right? Like, thank you for fighting the SEC for us, right? Thank you for expending the capital, the millions of dollars that it's probably going to take you to go through with this lawsuit. Same thing with Binance, right? With XRP. Thank you guys, even though you're centralized entities. Thank you for fighting this fight for us, right? But I'm going to use your service and take my money off your damn platform immediately, right? And that's the message that I will stick to, that I will encourage everybody to do, right? Support them with the subscription fee, and then take your money off immediately and self-custody it, right? Because here's another thing, right? I don't know exactly how this is going to play out, but Brian Armstrong has stated that he wants Base to L2 eventually. It's going to start off centralized, but it's going to transition to decentralized. I don't know exactly how he's going to accomplish that, right? But at the very least, well, he knows exactly how important decentralization is to his users, right? So there's an effort there, right? There's an effort there to transition from decentralized entity to decentralization. How they're going to accomplish that, I don't know. We have to see how as this develops. But it's like they're fighting the good fight, man. So you're not going to get any heat from me. So
that's fascinating. But man, so what I'm kind of seeing, right, is that Coinbase is kind of like, he's kind of like that one guy that you just really don't like. I don't like that guy, God, right? But he's out there technically helping you, and he's providing you opportunities, and you're like, I don't like this guy, but he does make he makes me money. He gives me opportunities, and so it's kind of like you put up with him. I'm kind of seeing Coinbase as sort of the same thing. It's like it's a centralized entity. There's a lot of government hands, we'll say, involved, right? There's a lot of things that are like, I feel like this is a honey trap, But then you look at the other things that they're trying to do, and it's kind of like, it's almost like they're trying to be a honey trap, but they're honey trapping the big wigs, right? Trying to honey trap us, so that way they can eventually come out with true crypto, true DeFi, and ultimately leave those guys in the dust and basically say, hey, thank you for supporting us and getting us to this point. Now we're taking over, right? What is it? They fight you and then we win, right? And it's kind of like Coinbase is fighting you right now. But are they really? Because they're going to be the key to how we win. I don't know. I'm seeing a little bit of a correlation about how, I don't know, there's something kind of strange going on there. You know what I mean? So a lot of the, I guess you could say it's a lot of those movies of everybody betraying everyone all at the same time and who's really friend and foe and all that shit, right?
Well, I got a whole page of notes. I feel like you guys need to start some sort of course and charge like $1,000 or something like that. I think.
Yeah, basically, right.
Yeah, something like that. All right. So. All right, so let's go ahead and get to the close out of the show. We're gonna go ahead and transition here. Jeff, I'm gonna turn it over to you real quick. If you just want to come off mute and let everyone know what you're working on, if they can expect anything from you over the next week or two, and stuff that you're looking forward to seeing. And then after Jeff, after you go, let's go with Jay and then Brendan, and then Nate and I will close it out.
Me and Nate and Tracker are gonna most likely keep doing our little Monday show where we go over different yield protocols, and then me and Tracker are also tomorrow gonna I think meet. I don't know if we're recording or not, but this other little crypto passive income niche that he kind of came up with that he found while he was doing some research. Going to do that. I'm coming up with the portfolio. I want to have that done by Wednesday. So that's generally what I got going on right now. That's about it. You're muted, Jay.
There we go. No, I just wanted to say to our audience again, thank you as always for joining us here, right? Like we know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend a little bit of that time here with us. As far as where you can find me, you can find me on social media at agent_Jay Schroth and on Twitter at _P90Hex, both of which will most likely be pinned on the description below. And please join our Telegram, man. If you like this content and you want to support us, we're not gonna charge you for anything. Just like, comment, share, subscribe, join that Telegram group, because that Telegram group is very active. We share a lot of alpha with you guys in terms of the things that we do on a daily basis when it comes to investing in the market, our ideas and stuff like that. Like what we're personally doing. So if you like had a question about a specific protocol or something that's going on within the charts, we're there all the time. You have direct access to us. And as far as what I'll be working on, and within the next few weeks, we'll be finishing up the part 2 of the technical analysis series. So look out for that, man. But other than that, that's all I got. Thanks again for joining us, guys. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Also, I'd say that if you like the content, tell your friends about the channel. You know, we really want to grow the community. We want to help as many people as we can. And, you know, you people that have enjoyed the content thus far, it's be helpful if you guys could share that with your friends and family, even if they're not into crypto. You know, we're here to help people as much as you can, but we really are appreciative of it. And that chat is very active, very active. So I've really enjoyed interacting with the community, and continue to be excited to create some content. So a few of the things that we've done recently is we do have social media, as Cassie pointed out earlier. And also we're going to be putting this show into podcast form. So if you can't catch us live and you want to catch us on a podcast, we are going to be setting that up here in the next couple of weeks. So it's just gives us an opportunity to provide our content to a wider range of people. You know, not everybody goes onto YouTube. Some people literally are, you know, commute an hour or 2 hours a day at work and are just listening to podcasts on the podcast app. So we're excited to do that. And at some point in the future, I'll probably do a show here and there about new cryptocurrencies, but I do want to get things running on the podcasts. But really enjoyed the show tonight. So guys, thank you all for this. Great alpha as always. Great information. And this is the stuff that people need to pay attention to. You need to be in the market and you need to be paying attention to it, because it's going to pass you by. We keep saying that, but it's true. So thank you all. Have a good night at anonymous_bean on Twitter. Thanks.
Okay, right on. And so, yeah, you know, Nate McGidditt, you know, what we're going to be doing tomorrow is we're going to be recording. Obviously, it's not going to be live or anything, but, you know, Jeff, Tracker, and I, we're going to be recording. We're going to be kind of continuing along with our LPing series. However, this time around, we're going to be going for DeFi Kingdoms. Now, DeFi Kingdoms is very interesting because it's not just like there's a lot of yielding and farming going on it. but it's actually a game. Fascinating, right? So here's something else that we're going to be doing after we're done with all the LPing, diving deep into the farms and how to make yourself money printers and retire off of all that, right? We're actually going to be jumping over into the GameFi space. And so this is going to be kind of like a little bit of a segue. Don't miss it, guys. We're going to be recording it tomorrow. Most likely it'll be uploaded on Tuesday, so the next day, right? But I'm telling you what, the GameFi space is going to explode. Like, if you're not getting the GameFi tokens, I don't know what you're doing. Like, click on the link below for our Telegram. Ask around for it, because your mind will be blown just how this GameFi space is going to go just absolutely parabolic. So yeah, we're going to be deep diving into that. I know Jeff and Tracker, they've been looking deep into it. I myself, I haven't been looking too deep into the crypto side of GameFi, but I know gaming probably better than I really should, and I know exactly what makes an actual good game and all that. So I'll be putting my 2 cents in as well, just from a little, not exactly like non-crypto, but a little bit more outside scope, right? 30,000 foot view, just a bigger overall view. So yes, watch out for those videos. We got a lot coming, man. So hey, join the Telegram and don't be poor.
Hey, panel, I want to thank you guys again tonight for, sacrificing your time, coming on the show. It's always awesome when we can get together to have this content. You guys, I'm just getting closer and closer with you guys, and you guys are awesome. And it really is a blessing to be able to hang out with you guys and just to be able to put on this sort of content, to have this conversation with each other. And for the people that want to listen, the people that want to hear about it, building this community is awesome. So again, thank you guys so much for your time. Of course, we want to give a special thanks to our lovely producer, Miss Jen, behind the scenes, taking care of the chat for us, taking care of the comments and everything. Thank you so much for that, Jen. You guys could do me a favor. If you guys are watching live, if you guys are watching on replay, make sure you smash that like button. Hit that like button, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Make sure you guys get down into the descriptions. You guys will see our Telegram group. We're growing every single day. So make sure you guys click on that Telegram. Make sure you guys hop into that Telegram. Free Telegram. We're not going to charge you $100 or anything like that. It's a free Telegram. So hop in there, get that information where you can. Make sure you guys also add us on Facebook, add us on Instagram, and make sure you guys are adding us on Twitter as well. With that being said, my name is Josh. You guys can find me on Twitter at Chocolate Taints. So as far as anything coming around the corner, make sure you guys are tuned in next week, next Sunday, 8:00 p.m. for our live show. And then, of course, make sure you guys hit that notification bell and check out the channel throughout the week. Nate's going to be posting some recorded content, and we'll probably have another live stream or two this week. But if nothing else, we'll see you guys back here again next week, unless we decide to hop on again, unless we come around to a live stream again this week. We've been known to do that from time to time. So, again, hit that notification bell. So with that being said, everyone, thank you so much for watching. For those that are live, you guys have a good night. For those on the replay, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this, and hopefully we'll catch you on the next live stream. That being said, you guys have a good night. Be easy.
Thanks, Josh. Nate, appreciate it.